All right. Well, get
Well,
started then.
I'd like to start out by first of all thanking everyone and welcoming you for coming this evening into our webinar. And it's great that you want to learn more about how important immune health is. And so I'd like to start out with just telling you a little bit about our presenter, AJ Lanigan. AJ is a manufacturer, a public speaker, and author. He was educated at the University of South Carolina School of Pharmacy and now owns his own company manufacturing products that help to maintain and support good health. AJ is best known for his contribution in the manufacturing of his flagship product, Beta 1,3-D glucan, that a lot of us absolutely love. That is designed to help the immune system be all that it can be. He has been called upon to speak about the immune system at places like Tulane Medical School, the University of Massachusetts, and the Charlotte, North Carolina Community College. He does a weekly radio show, Health, Wealth, and Happiness, and has featured interviews with Ty Bollinger on his internationally acclaimed The Truth About Cancer, A Quest for the Cure. So AJ, with that being said, we appreciate you being here to educate us on the importance of a healthy immune system. So if we can all silence our cell phones, if you have any cell phones on in your office, we would appreciate it if you could silence those. And then I'm going to let AJ take on from here.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate all of you being patient. Let us get past all of our technological challenges. And we will be recording this. And so Nan and her team will be able to peruse it. In case some of you had other friends who you wanted to try to get on at 8 o'clock tonight, we'll have an opportunity for them to see our little presentation. Basically, my goal tonight is to give you a brief glimpse at the immune system, or rather the immune response. And there is a difference. The immune system being made up of organs and cells and chemicals and things that are designed to protect us against all those things that are in us, on us, and around us, trying to get us all the time. And the immune response, you may have an immune system. And if you're above room temperature, I'll assure you, you probably do. But the big question is, how well does that immune system respond in the face of a challenge? And what might you be able to do to enhance the immune system that you have and its ability to respond in the face of a challenge? So I'm going to rely on our PowerPoint to help us. I'm going to share a screen here. And you should be looking at a PowerPoint presentation. And this part is easy for me. All I have to do is read that our immune system is our defense against all invaders, as well as cancer. Now, the reason I differentiate is because things like bacteria and virus and fungi and parasites, they invade us from the outside in, whereas cancer cells, not really invaders. They're more of something that is a bit of a traitor. It starts off inside and is really a difficult thing for the immune system to readily identify. Other things that fall up under the immune system umbrella, allergies. A lot of people don't know that healing or healing processes are directly associated with the immune system, hence the immune response. Aging, particularly premature aging, all of these things are mitigated by our immune system. Now, one of the things that again, people are surprised by is that you never really have 100% immune response. As a person who would be considered a normal and healthy individual, your immune response is only going to be about 30 to 31% in the face of any challenge. Now, we can enhance that response And we can create an immune system that is, in fact, more readily available to fight invaders and cancer, to overcome allergies, to help us with premature aging, to heal more rapidly and completely, or the best of all worlds, just to keep us healthy all the time. So the things that I'm getting ready to show you are based upon medical research from major universities and teaching hospitals. Now, a little bit of mathematics to start off with, and it might pay you some time to jot down a trillion, because unless you're a U.S. Senator or U.S. House of Representatives, the average person doesn't operate in terms of trillions very often. A little bit of disparity in what the experts might say: 100 to 120 trillion cells in the average human body. But on any given day, about 10% of those cells is what makes up our immune system, which be therefore around 10 to 12 trillion cells. Now, out of that group of cells, neutrophils are the most abundant of all of our immune cells. In fact, if you go to the doctor and have your basic blood work done, NEU on your blood work indicates these cells, and you'll see on that report that they make up 50 to 70% of all of your immune cells. An interesting point here: even though they are the most abundant of all your immune cells, they cannot see cancer. But as you learn here tonight, by using a compound known as beta-1,3-D glucan, they will be able to find and detect cancer. They will be able then to readily attack and destroy them, just like they typically would with any kind of bacteria. So again, I'm giving you a little bit of the mathematics here. If we've got 10 to 12 trillion immune cells in our body, of those immune cells, some 6 trillion of them then are our neutrophils. Now we've got a little tachometer that matches up with what theoretically would represent those immune cells. And we're going to show that, again, if you're a healthy individual, you eat exactly what you're supposed to eat. You take food supplements morning, noon, and night. You have no stress in your life. You get plenty of rest. You say your prayers. Everything is perfect. Well, you're going to be operating again at a level of around 30 to 31% of that group of cells. So as you see the math at the bottom, 30% of those 6 trillion cells means about 1.8 trillion neutrophils that may come to your rescue in the face of a challenge. Again, now we are showing you what the immune response might be. Now, if you're not healthy, you may not have all that, but here, let's just assume that you are, and you get up in the morning saying, you know, I'm getting ready to have my wisdom teeth pulled here in a few days, or I'm getting ready to get on an airplane and fly across the country, or I've got the holidays coming up, and I'm not sure when I get into these other venues who's going to be sick, who's going to have colds and sore throats. In other words, I really would like to have more than 30% of my immune system working on my behalf in the face of whatever challenge that I might see. Well, we have a compound known as beta-1,3-D glucan, and whoever invited you to this presentation tonight will be able to go into more depth with you, but I wanted you to have a graphic in your mind what it means to have 30% or more of your immune cells. Now, you could take really about a half of a dose of what we would typically recommend, and you would get, gosh, almost a 30% increase in the amount of immune response as compared to what you're getting each and every day, doing everything perfectly. Keeping in mind now, we're comparing to a person who is perfectly healthy. If we take the recommended dose, and the dose, by the way, is based upon your body weight. I don't know what your various body weights are, but typically you would take one of our capsules for every 110 pounds of body weight, and that's going to raise your immune response. So if I weigh, let's say 220 pounds, then I'm going to take 2 of what we call the RVB 300 capsules, and that's going to put me, if I'm 220 pounds, to this level of immune response, almost 50%, which is, again, well over half again what I would have if I was perfectly healthy. Now, I can elevate my dose, and as I elevate my dose, I'm also elevating the number of immune cells that, again, are going to come to my rescue in the face of a challenge. So let's go back. If I'm perfectly healthy, 1.8 trillion cells. If I take half the recommended dose, 2.4 trillion cells. And if I take the full dose of our RVB 300, we're looking at 3 trillion neutrophils, about 50% of the whole deck of cards. Now, again, as we increase the dose, we also are going to be increasing our immune response. With just a little bit more of a dose, we're now elevating our immune response to double that of what it was when we were at our theoretical healthy level. Now, there is a level at which no matter how much we take, we will maximize our immune response. And that level is going to be somewhere around 65 to 70%. Now, to reach this level, we actually have a different product. It's our 500 milligram, or our branded name, our RYL 500 is given to provide the maximum in immune response. Now, I don't want you to so much concentrate on something for cancer, or something for the common cold, or something for herpes, or a trip back from Mexico where you've got Montezuma's revenge from some kind of a parasite. Understand that our immune system doesn't care what the challenge is. The immune system simply says, is whatever I just ran across, is it self, S-E-L-F, or is it non-self? And if it is non-self, then my job as an immune cell is to kick it out of here, to destroy it, to eliminate it, to keep my host happy and healthy. So what we want to come away from this is very, very simple. That immune response is not something of a Band-Aid when you're not feeling well. You don't wait until, for example, your teeth are full of cavities and say, oh, no, my teeth are full of cavities. It's time to start brushing and flossing. No, that's not the case. As an old periodontist rather, told me years ago, AJ, only floss and brush the ones you want to keep. Don't worry about the rest of them. Your immune response is a systemic response, and it is a systemic response to everything that's going on in your entire body. Your immune response is going to affect your skin, your hair, your organs, your energy, and much more. It is, again, your immune system that is the only thing that stands between you and all those things in you, on you, and around you trying to get you all the time. So you need to start now in giving your immune system consistent support with a compound beta-1,3-D-glucan that has been shown to be completely safe, provides you everything you need in regards to the immune system. Now we're not talking about helping your gray hair. We're not talking about something to help you lose weight. We're not talking about something that is going to raise your IQ, even though admittedly, if you are seen holding one of the bottles of my product, you do look a lot smarter. But the best thing that you could probably do is to get started now, helping that immune system to be all that it can be. Many, many times I run across people who have already, shall we say, missed that message earlier in their life. I talk to multiples of people each and every day that are besieged by cancer, all kinds of infection. They've gone through maybe some sort of a healing crisis because they had an operation and they got some infection in the hospital, or maybe they had a tooth pulled and they had all kind of post-operative complications, or maybe every time flu season rolls around, they're sick more days than they're healthy. Or maybe you've got a child or even a pet. See, everybody's got an immune system. And I would suggest to you that in getting that immune system up to speed is something that we all need to do.
All right. So here's a question. They must be able to hear us.
Okay.
So, okay. Annette is asking, should someone take both the 300 and 500 if they have issues, and how to take it?
Well, the simplest question that you find from someone who you're discussing this with about the product is you ask them if they're healthy or if they're not healthy. When you ask that question, there should be a yes or no answer to that, as if you were asking, are you pregnant? You would not answer that question, well, kinda. Mm-hmm. If a person is perfectly healthy, then they use the RVB 300. That's what the RVB 300 was designed to do, is at a relatively low dose, you would actually get a little bit more immune response than you would from the beta-glucan as a standalone. And by the way, all the research shows that our beta-glucan, even at a low dose, will provide very, very good immune response. But I added the resveratrol and the vitamin C to give us a little bit more immune response at that same low dose. Now, resveratrol and vitamin C have benefits beyond what I'm interested in. My interest, again, is primarily in immune response. But resveratrol is a great supplement in and of itself. It's a great antioxidant. That's why everybody wants to get a glass of red wine, right? Is to get their dose of resveratrol, even though I think you would take something like 74 glasses of red wine to equal the amount of resveratrol that's in one of our capsules. So I don't know if I'd recommend 74 glasses of wine.
And that would be per day.
Be a pretty good buzz. If you are a wine salesman, you might want to sell wine instead of resveratrol. But for people who have a health challenge, and it doesn't make any difference if a person is simply older and maybe when they bruise or get a cut or a scrape, it takes forever to heal. If you're not extremely healthy, then you're probably going to want to use our 500 milligram. It has 5 times the amount of beta-glucan per capsule. And so you're getting a lot more immune response per pill than you would taking, say, one of the RVB 300s. So if again, I use the example of that 220-pound person that would take 2 of the RVBs if I were healthy. Well, I would have to take 20 of them to get me up to that maximum immune response if I had some sort of a challenge, or if I just wanted to have a maximum immune response. See, I don't have to be sick. I don't have to have herpes. I don't have to have cancer. I don't have to have the flu for me to want to have maximum immune response. It's not going to hurt me to be taking that level of beta glucan. In fact, we've had tremendous amounts of beta glucan taken over a long period of time, and absolutely no amount over any period of time can cause any kind of issues. So there's no danger, there's no safety issue here. It's just where you want your immune system to be when you get up in the morning. If you want to take both, fine, take both. And depending on the dose of the beta glucan is where that immune response will be on that dose curve. Okay?
That's great. Okay, let's see if we have any more here. I realize that not everybody has my phone number programmed into their phone. Let's see. Okay, so Joyce is asking, why can all of a sudden neutrophils, well, this is, oh, she said, yes, she can hear us. So everyone can hear us. That's a good thing. She asked, why can all of a sudden NEU, which neutrophils, can see cancer? Why all of a sudden?
Well, it only happens when you use the beta glucan. It's no wave your hand and all of a sudden. The beta glucan molecule actually binds to a receptor on the surface of these immune cells, and not just the neutrophils. You've got natural killer cells, you've got eosinophils. There's a whole bunch of different immune cells. We talk about neutrophils usually because there's more of them than anything else that have this unique glucan receptor. Now, the glucan receptor is all they knew to call it years ago, but now we've got the technology where these things can actually be detected and identified, and we refer to it as complement receptor number 3, or CR3. So look at that as a switch that our molecule turns on, and when it turns on that switch, now that neutrophil can see things that it could not see before, not just cancer cells, but other things that maybe were invisible or couldn't be seen as well. So not just the neutrophils, but all of our immune cells that have that glucan receptor are going to do a better job at what they're supposed to be doing, and they're going to do those jobs more, better, and faster. Now, there are other immune cells that don't have the glucan receptor, like T cells and B cells and a few other subsets. What we find, though, is the cells that do have the glucan receptor will send out these chemical messages. They're referred to as cytokines. Think of those as chemical emails or faxes, and they'll go to these other immune cells and activate them so that they also do a better job. For example, B cells in the making of antibodies. Right now, you hear a lot about make sure you get your flu shot, make sure your kids are vaccinated. Well, if a person decides to use a vaccine, if they want the maximum out of that vaccine, they would be using our product, because the vaccine itself does absolutely nothing to protect you. What it does is it triggers an immune response. That's the theory, to make antibodies, these like forked proteins that stick to whatever the target is, whether the target is a flu virus or some other kind of bug for which the vaccine is targeted. So if you want a vaccine to be effective, if you decide to use a vaccine to get the most out of that vaccine, you would use beta glucan. And again, how do we know this? Because our product has been tested against vaccines with and without it, and we are able to show that there's a higher immune response, hence a higher antibody count when you use the beta glucan as opposed to not. So again, it's not an all of a sudden thing. It's by way of that glucan molecule flipping the switch, that glucan receptor, that CR3 receptor, and that allows the Woody Allen immune cell to turn into the Schwarzenegger cell and do its thing.
And that's where we can view the video, the mechanism of action at Vita with Immunity.
That's right. Everybody, I hope prior to the call tonight, watch that 2.5-minute video called Mechanism of Action. That shows you precisely how the glucan activates the CR3 receptor so that it runs and finds targets faster, more effectively, and destroys and eliminates them, and then ultimately, even with cancer that before had been invisible, non-detectable to the immune cells that are the most abundant. So we, in effect, now have given the human body a tool that it can use to protect itself even better.
Okay. So you may have kind of answered this question for this individual, but they're asking if the 300 can, need my glasses, clear or fight herpes.
Well, actually, the product doesn't fight anything. Right. What the product does is it triggers the immune system to do its job better. Now, herpes, and most people think about herpes 1, herpes 2, but they don't think about the rest of the herpes family. For example, chickenpox. Chickenpox is a member of the herpes family. It's called varicella zoster virus. And any and everybody who's had chickenpox, well, that's a member of the herpes family. That herpes, that chickenpox, that VZV virus is still hiding inside in your nerve ganglia, where your nerve junctions, your crossroads come together. And when your immune system fails you, shingles comes back to get you, as an example. Cytomegalovirus, another member of the herpes family. Epstein-Barr, otherwise known as mononucleosis or the kissing disease, again, a member of the herpes family. Roseola, many times a misdiagnosed childhood disease. HHV6, there's an A and a B variant of that. Let's see, Kaposi sarcoma, which is HHV8. We started hearing a lot about Kaposi sarcoma with the advent of HIV, which gave rise to that particular form of cancer. So herpes is a big, huge, happy family. And any of these that you come into contact with, those bugs are still in your body. Now, the question is, am I going to have herpes outbreaks? Am I going to have shingle outbreaks? Am I going to have these bugs that are going to be in my body forever? Are they going to continue to surface time and time again and create havoc? Well, the answer to that question is based upon one thing and one thing only, and that is the health and the competency of your immune system, or more importantly, your immune response. For a person who has adequate immune response, you're probably never going to have the shingles. You're probably never going to have a herpes outbreak. But for people who have problems with fever blisters, wherever they may occur, well, that is a sure sign that your immune system is failing you. And frankly, you can eat all the broccoli and drink all the good water and breathe all the good air and say your prayers and all those things. Certainly that's going to improve the terrain of your body. But there's a limit to where that immune system can go. And we covered that in our very first slide. The best you will ever get is around 30 to 31%. Ours is the only compound that has been proven safe to be able to raise that immune system response to the levels that we discussed tonight. And again, this isn't a matter of my opinion. This is based on research done at places like Tulane University, University of Louisville, Brown University, McGill, Harvard. I mean, the list goes on and on. You can go to PubMed, PUBMED, and type in glucan, and you're going to come up with over 140,000 medical journal articles talking about the very things that we're touching on tonight, and a lot more. You can go to clinicaltrials.gov. There are 90 plus clinical trials going on in major hospitals and teaching universities all around the world, and a myriad of things, including cancer. Cancer is one of the main topics, one of the main targets of glucan. There's probably more research, if you look at the whole accumulation of medical research on glucan on cancer, then of course the next biggest group would be infectious disease. Again, you go to PubMed, type in glucan cancer. You're going to get over 8,000 medical journal hits. So pretty big deal. Mm-hmm. And I realize that for some of you here tonight, it might be the first time that you've heard of it. I hate to say it's a pretty well kept secret, but not everybody studies immunology as closely as I do, and it's my hope that I've given you all a little tweak tonight that you'll spend a little more time. And I wanted to mention, I'm trying to make this as easy as I can. We've put together a website, Vita with Immunity. That's V as in Victor, ITA with WITH Immunity, IMMUNITY.com. Vita with Immunity. Vita is Latin for life. So life with immunity will help you remember it. And there you're going to see videos, you're going to see medical journal articles, you're going to see frequently asked questions. There's a wealth of information. And that, along with a book written by probably one of the most prolific researchers in the area of the immune system and an expert in the field of the immune system and research on beta-glucan, Dr. Vaslav Vetvika at the University of Louisville. There's a book that he's written. Now it's second edition, known as Beta-Glucan, Nature's Secret. And you can get that on the internet off of Amazon. And he's currently working on a third edition. Won't be out probably till next year. But between those two, between the Vita with Immunity and the book Beta-Glucan, Nature's Secret, that would be your primary foundation for understanding better about the immune system and how beta-glucan can enhance and support and maintain the healthiest immune response that you could possibly get.
Well, this was great information. And I think now, I don't think we have any other questions at this time. Let's see, let me take one more look here. Oh, okay. One last, and this is kind of a common question. As far as how about, but my oncologist says absolutely no supplements during chemo. So well, I guess we're looking for, what would you recommend how to address that?
Well, that's a very common remark from an oncologist, and I'll tell you why. Not that I'm in a position of trying to defend the oncologist. I'm just telling you how it is. There has been over the years, over the decades, countless number of people that have approached this oncologist and probably every other medical doctor with every kind of snake oil and anecdotal story in the world about how disease can be overcome without using his services or her services. Well, the first thing that's going on in his or her mind is, well, if all that stuff worked, how come I got a job? Okay, so I'm just telling it like it is. I'm not defending it. I'm just telling you
Makes sense.
You know, I've talked and worked with a lot of those people, and their attitude is, look, I'm a medical doctor, you're not. If you could cure cancer, you'd have a line out the door. Understand, what I'm talking to you tonight about is not a cure for cancer. It's not a cure for the common cold. It's not a cure for herpes. Uh, you know, and needless to say, it won't turn your gray hair back to its original color either. It won't do any of those things. But let me tell you something. The oncologist, he doesn't or she doesn't have a cure for cancer either. Your infectious disease expert doesn't have a cure for herpes either. There are many, many different things out there, not the least of which is the common cold, for which there is no cure. But here's the point, and here's the point that I would make to that oncologist, is that you recognize that the tools that they have, the chemo, the radiation, are things that are going to undoubtedly decimate the immune system. What little bit of immune response you've got left, those treatments are going to eliminate whatever's left. And one or two things are going to happen. Either God from heaven is going to come down and touch that chemo and radiation over the shoulder of the doctor and eliminate cancer from your body, or you're probably going to die. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but statistically speaking, the numbers are not that great, particularly with late stage cancer, people that are like in third or fourth stage. Now, early detection, there are a few cancers that they get ahead of the curve and they can knock out, and you live past that magical 5 years. But the reality is they don't have the cure for cancer. So you need to stop and think for a minute and dial into reality and recognize that the reason you're there to start with in front of an oncologist is because your immune system has failed you, or else you wouldn't be there having the conversation.
Yep.
What will you do moving forward? Now, I will tell you this. If you decide to go with chemo and radiation, there are certain food supplements that will stymie, that will actually, I won't say eliminate, but substantially stymie the effects of chemo and radiation. So if you decide that you want to use chemo and radiation, you certainly don't want to then, in the face of making that decision, do something that's going to stymie what chance you have of whatever level of benefit it may give you. Recognize, though, that again, this particular compound has been tested alongside chemo, has been tested alongside radiation, has shown not to interfere, in fact, to show tremendous benefit to those. And again, I would tell you to go to the VITA website or go to PubMed, and you would, if you feel compelled to get the okay from the oncologist, then say, look, here's a chapter in this book. I would like for you to take 20 or 30 minutes and read this while I'm sitting here. And here's another chapter on mechanism of action. I would like for you to have the benefit of some of the most recent peer-reviewed medical literature, and from that standpoint, test to see if they understand or not. One thing there is no shortage of, and that's oncologists. They're kind of like buses. Another will be by in a few minutes. So I can't tell you whether or not to do chemo or radiation, nor will I attempt to. I'm just saying, regardless of what you choose to do, I can't tell you, for example, to take or not to take antibiotics. I can't tell you to or not to do vaccines. I have my own personal opinions of these things, but I will assure you, any and all of those and many more, if you're using this compound to support your immune system, to activate it so that your immune response is far better, then you're going to come out far better on the other side, regardless of what protocol you choose to or not to pursue. Okay?
Oh, very well said. I think with that, AJ, it looks like I think we're good with the questions. So that's it.
Well, hopefully we'll continue to practice this until we get it down a little bit better. We'll try to figure out how we lost our group chat. On my part down here in Columbia, South Carolina, thank each and every one of you. And Nan, I'll leave it up to you to close out.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this again. And once again, we appreciate all of you participating. We appreciate you being here, AJ, and we'll be in touch.